Hello, pattern readers. This is an impromptu Wheel of Time TV show news video because we had some surprise news related to the show that I just had to cover, even though I had another video scripted and ready to film today. So first of all, it is official. Filming for season 1 has wrapped, with the last shot being completed on Tuesday, May 18th, according to Rafe Judkins, the showrunner. And season 2 is officially greenlit before we've seen any of season 1. Now, if you've been following rumors, we kind of knew this was true, but it's awesome to have official confirmation. On Wednesday night, there was a little whoopsie from the official Wheel of Time Twitter account when this photo was tweeted and basically immediately deleted. But you can't fool Wheel of Time fans. The photo was already out there. Whether they had planned to already or not, this photo was officially released by Rafe Judkins today as well. So we know that the title for the first episode in the second season is A Taste of Solitude, and it was written by Amanda Kate Schumann. In case you were wondering, this title, A Taste of Solitude, is also the chapter title of Chapter 18 of Lord of Chaos. And no, I don't think it means that we'll be getting Lord of Chaos material at the beginning of Season 2. I think in general with these episode titles, we can say safely that they're picking titles from chapters because they like the sound of them. They can use them thematically with other material that they're covering. It doesn't mean it's going to correspond with that same chapter title. Now let's take a look at these rather odd-looking objects next to the script and speculate about what they might mean. It's really hard to say what they are exactly. I've seen plenty of theories out there. Some people say they look like eyes, which I can see. Other people pointing out that there seems to be very small trefoil leaves worked into the metal. I can see that as well. Now, the one idea that kind of jumped out to me is that these sort of look like hinges or clasps if we look at the overall shape of them. And so perhaps these could be used on the chest that holds the Horn of Valir. This is the idea that makes the most sense to me because I think at least in terms of content, we're going to be looking at early Great Hunt material related to the Horn of Valir at the beginning of Season 2. What are your thoughts on what these might be? This news about the green light for Season 2 is being picked up in entertainment outlets like Deadline and Variety, and I wanted to share some quotes that came from press releases related to these articles, and I'll share the article links for you as well. Getting a second season order before the first season has even premiered is such a vote of confidence in the work we are doing and the property itself. He goes on to say, Season 2 just keeps expanding the world we built in Season 1. Vernon Sanders, the co-head of TV for Amazon Studios, mentioned that they wanted the Prime Video customers to know that the second season was already in the works so that they would know that the journey would continue. Now, so for maybe fans who are questioning whether they want to invest time in this series, it does show that, hey, we're at least getting 2 seasons out of this. Of course, a lot of this is marketing and so on, but we do have to just look at the fact that they are willing to green light the second season of this production before audiences have seen even a minute of it. So I do think that shows confidence in the production. It makes me feel good about what is to come. So then Rafe Judkins did an AMA on his Instagram stories, which I will link for you as well. And I'm going to run through those answers that he gave. Now, look, he's basically an Aes Sedai. So a lot of his answers, he's very careful about not giving away too much. But we got some interesting info here. And not getting a direct answer has certainly never stopped me from speculating before. So let's have a little fun and look at what he has to say. He was asked about the average running time of each episode. For those of you who are already watching any number of streaming shows, you probably already know this, but in places like Amazon and Netflix and so on, you don't have to have an exact runtime. So of course there's going to be some variability here, but he gives us a range, 50 to 65 minutes each. So these are certainly lengthy episodes, and right around that mark that he had told us before to expect each episode to be about an hour. So this is a lot of material for an 8-episode season. Okay, I know this is a question that a lot of fans want an answer to. Congratulations on Season 1 wrap. Blink twice if a trailer is coming soon. And we get this emoji with eyes open wide. That doesn't look so promising. I don't want you to be too discouraged by this answer. I'm not. And the reason why I'm not is because of an article recently put out on WoTSeries.com where they looked at, among other things, what other Amazon shows did for teasers and trailers and release dates and when those were announced in comparison to when the show was released. If we look at a lot of those, we'll see that many of them do a longer teaser before they do a full trailer. And that in that longer teaser, sometimes we see either a general or a specific release date put out at the same time. So that's kind of what I'm expecting, that we might see something like that soon. A longer teaser, hopefully with a release date, and that full trailer wouldn't come for many months later into the summer, especially if we're looking at a late fall release for the show. There's been numerous rumors about a potential release date in the neighborhood of Black Friday, November 26th. Now, I don't know if it's going to be that exact date, but we do have some information, both official and unofficial, about the publishing of special edition books for the Wheel of Time series with tie-ins to the TV series. And that often happens around the release date as a tie-in for promotion for that publisher. For instance, check out this report from earlier this week about Orbit Books prepping a new edition of The Eye of the World to release on November 4th, 2021. This suggests that the TV show will hit screens around that time, maybe a week to a month later. I'll link to this blog post for you. On to the next question. Do the Emons Field 5 actors perform stunts on their own, or do they have stunt doubles? Everyone on the show has a stunt double, but most of our actors are really amazing with the physical stuff and doing their own stunts. Here he was asked how he's feeling about having wrapped season 1, and he says it hasn't fully hit him yet. Also mentioning that there's so much to be done to get the show ready to air and get season 2 shooting. But here's where we get the official last shot on Tuesday, which was the 18th. This question is where we get to see how much of a cheeky little bugger Rafe really is. He's asked which character that doesn't appear in season 1 and does appear in season 2 are you most excited about? And he says starts with an EL. At first glance, this answer seems to be about Elaine. That was my immediate thought. And I still think that's the most likely character that he meant here, because there's been so many rumors about Elaine being cast for season 2. But it's not the only possible answer. So let's consider any other major characters that he might be excited about who would not be in season 1 and who might be in season 2. So I think we can eliminate El Mindretta, Min, because we know she's in season 1. But we've got Elida, we've got Elias, and if he wanted to be really tricksy, my precious, he could have meant Elan Morin Tedronai, aka Ishamael. So I'm going with Elaine on this, but it's not a guarantee, and boy was that an Aes Sedai answer. What do you think he's referring to here? If you know me at all by now, it might not be hard to guess that this answer was my favorite. Asked, do you have the plot of all the seasons roughly mapped out? And he says, yeah, between season 1 and season 2, we made a rough map of how the series could break down into seasons. It can always change, obviously, but important to know where we are going and how we are getting there so we can build it right if Amazon Prime Video keeps us around for the long haul. Of course, I love this. The fact that there is an overall plan and an outline for how these books are going to be adapted, how they're going to fit into a certain number of seasons is music to my ears. This could not be a better answer. Next question. Will we see the actual weaves or just the end result of channeling? And he says, you're going to see it all if you're a woman who can channel. This was another kind of tricky answer here. But the way I interpret it is that the answer to this question is going to depend on the perspective of the scene. Basically, whose eyes are we seeing the scene through? So that in some scenes, we would probably see the weaves, and in some scenes, we wouldn't. We would see the effect of channeling. And this makes a lot of sense to me, just in terms of a mechanism of explaining how the one power works and how it would be seen by people in the world. But also, it could certainly be a way of saving some money on special effects. In some scenes, you're not going to be showing every weave. And in other scenes where you need that and where it's clearly from the perspective of women who can channel, you're going to see it. He was asked about the most difficult part of creating the Wheel of Time during a global pandemic, and he says the human aspect. We've built a family here in Prague with cast and crew, and keeping everyone safe has been top priority. Everyone's ability to adapt and meet the stresses of a time like this has been amazing to watch. And yeah, there's really nothing else to say about that. How far should we get in the books if we don't want season 1 to spoil things for us? Great question. So great that he answered it just to not answer it. He gave a non-answer, but it was a very cleverly worded question, so kudos to whoever wrote this. How are you balancing the numerous POVs in the book versus focusing on Rand? As I've always said, we are adapting the whole series, not just Eye of the World, and I really think this is an ensemble series, so the first season is as well. I'm not entirely sure what sort of answer people are looking for with a question like this. Of course, if we look at the entire series, and even if we just look at the Eye of the World, Rand has most of the POVs in the Eye of the World, and he's the most frequent POV character in general. But there's so many POV characters. Obviously, this is going to be a huge ensemble, even with cutting out potentially many characters. So there has to be a balance. What works in the book does not work in the show. We can't have every scene or most scenes in the first season be from Rand's POV. That's one of the benefits of opening up the story and the world a little bit with different POVs. So that's one of the things I'm really looking forward to, is scenes that might have been from Rand's POV that we get to see from someone else's in the show, and new scenes that we didn't get to see because Rand wasn't there. Another Aes Sedai answer here. Will we see Forsaken in season 1? And we get some people see Forsaken everywhere. So that tells us pretty much nothing. And then on this one, we get a very straightforward, will we see Narg? Yep. Although it doesn't answer whether Narg will be a Trolloc who speaks, which is what I would want to know. But in case you were concerned whether there will be any reference to Narg, now we know. This is just kind of a fun one to speculate about. Did any of the actors end up becoming fans of the book series after getting cast? He says he won't spoil who, but 2 of the core cast are in a read-off right now, and I think one of them may have finished the series. Any guesses out there who this might refer to? I don't personally have a guess, but it might be interesting to find out. How many brands of Trollocs did you create for the show? We leaned into the books and tried to have the Trollocs have as much individual character as possible. My favorite is the one we call Betty. Now, I can't be the only one who saw this about Betty the Trolloc and thought, does that mean there's going to be a Steve the Trolloc? Just in case my little theory about Steve being Mordeth doesn't pan out. But honestly, they should never tell us who Steve actually is and just keep the fun going that way. Will season 2 take us to a lot of new locations? How big can the world get? Best thing about Wheel of Time is the world keeps getting bigger and deeper, and we've got to deliver on that in the show. So that's great news, and it's definitely something I think a lot of fans are looking forward to. He was asked if he would ask Amazon Prime if they'll do a sweepstakes for a fan to be an extra on the show, and he tags Amazon Prime Video and the Wheel of Time. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I think that would be a dream come true for a lot of fans. Here is a pretty juicy one. Loved the first look at the Trollocs. When are we getting more? And he says, sadly, there hasn't been a first look at the Trollocs yet. That was some accidentally leaked raw footage. We work so hard to make the show. It's always a shame when you guys see stuff outside the way we have it planned. I'll tell you one thing. When I met with directors for season 2 who'd seen the pilot, they all had one thing to say: those Trollocs. So this answer is right in line with what I was saying and speculating after that accidental teaser of Moiraine and the Trolloc that we got recently. And in fact, it goes a little further because Rafe calls that footage raw. I can't speak to myself personally because that's not my expertise, but taking him at his word, either way, it is clearly not how they intended us to see certain things, including the Trolloc. So really take that teaser with a grain of salt, big time. Rafe is asked, excited to progressively spiral downwards into raving madness. And he says, it's so funny that you think I'm not already there. So apparently he's going to have some relating he can do to male channelers. Sorry, Rafe. Asked, are you planning a book per season, or are there adaptations and inclusions from multiple? We have to combine, he says. He tags Madeline Madden and Yosha Stradowski and says they would be 45 when we finish otherwise. I think that's a bit of an exaggeration, but I mean, obviously, this answer comes as no surprise to me, as I've been speculating. You can't expect to do 14 seasons. It's in no way realistic. So of course, they're going to combine, and it's really interesting to speculate about how that might work. This one might be another upsetting one for some fans. Will Lan's cool cloak be featured in the show? He says, I love Lan's cloak in the show, but much like Aes Sedai agelessness, if it's an effect that's going to cost a fortune every time a character is on screen, it's a bad use of our money. Unless you want to see all of season 1 in the Winespring Inn, then you can have color-changing cloaks. I think he leaves a little bit of room for doubt here, whether he means there's absolutely no color-shifting cloaks in the show at all, but that's basically how I interpret what he's saying here. And this goes a little bit further than what I was speculating when we saw that Lan teaser. I did say at the time that I thought any sight of the color-shifting cloaks would be rare because it would be an expensive effect they wouldn't want to do in every shot where you have a warder. And here, what he's saying is that it's just not a good use of their money. So it's right in line with that. Now, the thing that I didn't think about at the time was that if you do it at all, if you introduce the concept of a color shifting cloak and your plan is to just use it very sparingly, you're going to sort of inevitably wind up in situations where fans are asking, well, it would have been really helpful in that situation. Why didn't we see the water cloak? And it may get to be one of those situations like Game of Thrones where fans are constantly asking, where are the dire wolves? So if the decision was that we just don't use it at all because we don't want to have to justify when we're using it and when we're not using it, then I'm okay with that. And as much as it might be fun to see, it's certainly not the most important thing and the thing that would give their budget the most bang for the buck. Who has been the hardest character to write for so far? Perrin is the hardest. His interior monologue in the book is the biggest part of his character, so bringing him out in the show is always something we have to build really consciously. Luckily, Marcus Rutherford just exudes Perrin every minute, so it makes our lives a lot easier. This was kind of a juicy answer for me too, and I really agree with what he says here. If you think about it, the internal thoughts and struggles that Perrin has throughout the series are so crucial to his character, really significant. And it will be a challenge to make that really play out well on screen. I don't want to dig into this too much here because I think it really demands more thought and more depth. So I think a how to adapt Perrin video or something along those lines will be coming up in the future. Last question. Have you started writing season 2? Yeah, the awesome season 2 writers have been working throughout the year, and we already have a bunch of great scripts ready to go. No surprise here, really, given when we know they began writing season 2 and now knowing for sure that season 2 is greenlit. We probably have most, if not all, of the season ready to go and filming set to begin shortly. So it's a really exciting time we're entering where hopefully news will be more forthcoming. So as always, it's a great time to be a Wheel of Time fan. So let me know your thoughts on all of this. What was your favorite bit of news, your questions that were raised by Rafe's answers, or what your guesses are as to what he was suggesting in some of them? So go to the comments, let me know what your thoughts are. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, hit the subscribe button, like and share the video. And until next time, gird your loins, my friends.